From Game of Thrones to Captain Hook, the concept of replacing a missing limb with something at least somewhat useful is not a new one, and is featured in many stories. But did this actually happen often historically, or is it just a gimmick for scary movie villains?
For as long as people have been going out hunting and fighting, the unlucky ones have been losing limbs in the process. Without modern medicine, this would have been even more of a life-threatening injury than it already is today. But somehow, in many cases, the indomitable human spirit persevered. People were somehow able to survive such injuries. Many skeletons have been found around the world and throughout time that have shown the resilient potential of the human body. They show signs of healing long after sometimes very gruesome wounds. It's important to note that nobody would have survived such injuries without intense care and aid from others in their community.
So for those people who did lose limbs, what did they try to do to adapt, to make life normal again? Early in human history, options were limited.
With minimal resources, there were only simple solutions, such as using a walking stick, a crutch, or just using one arm if the other one was missing.
Over time, as better materials and technology became available, more complex options were created. Let's take a look at a few examples.
The oldest preserved prosthetic is known as the Cairo toe. It belonged to an Egyptian noblewoman or priestess from roughly 1000 BC. It's made from both leather and wood, and was actually refitted several times during her life. One of the other rare examples from antiquity is the Capua leg, dated to 300 BC, a much more significant prosthetic taking the form of an entire artificial leg made from bronze. The missing foot is suspected of being made from gold or other precious metals. Going into the Middle Ages, there is a particularly interesting example of a Lombard man from northern Italy, dated to roughly the 7th century. This man lost his forearm from blunt trauma, and it was seemingly replaced by a knife blade, which was found in alignment with the broken limb within his grave. The knife was found in conjunction with a buckle and the likely remnants of leather strapping.
This man's teeth were far more worn on the right side of his jaw than on his left. This is the same side that his prosthetic was on, and it's theorized that he used his teeth to pull and tighten at his strap continuously and hold it in place. It's amazing how much his day-to-day life left an imprint on his skeleton and paints such a detailed picture of how he lived over 1500 years ago.
The blade would have been a helpful tool compared to a stump. One can imagine it being useful for a variety of tasks, like eating or holding objects in place. But also of note, the Lombards were invading Italy during this time period. It is likely this man lost his limb in combat, and that his prosthetic replacement was made with war in mind.
Soldiers risked their life and limb more than anyone else, and because so many limbs were lost in war, many prosthetics were correspondingly made for war.
One great example of this is the Roman general Marcus Sergius Silas, who fought in the Second Punic War against Carthage around 210 BC. Pliny records the following: "Nobody, at least in my opinion, can rightly rank any man above Marcus Sergius, although his great-grandson, Catiline, shames his name. In the second campaign, Sergius lost his right hand. In 2 campaigns, he was wounded 23 times, with the result that he had no use in either hand or either foot. Only his spirit remained intact. Although disabled, Sergius served in many subsequent campaigns. He was twice captured by Hannibal, no ordinary foe, from whom twice he escaped. Although kept in chains and shackles every day for 20 months, he fought 4 times with only his left hand, while 2 horses he was riding were stabbed beneath him. He had a right hand made of iron for him, and, going into battle, with his bound in his arm, raised the siege of Cremona, saved Placentia, and captured 12 enemy camps in Gaul." Another fantastic example of an iron prosthetic is Gotz of the Iron Hand, an early 15th century knight who lost his hand to cannon fire while fighting in Bavaria. He would go on to fight for decades, using not 1 but 2 articulated iron prosthetic hands that allowed him to grasp weapons or shields, and could even grasp a quill. It's worth noting, however, that this is a particularly well-made example. Many soldiers or knights who lost their hands or other limbs would have only rudimentary replacements, something that would allow them to grasp a shield and no more. Although not as common as pirate movies might have us believe, hook hand prosthetics actually were a thing, as can be seen in the example of French soldier and explorer Henri de Tonti. And though he would have often worn an actual iron hand as a prosthetic, he did wear a hook at times, and one could imagine that poorer soldiers and sailors would have resorted to using a hook as a prosthetic.
Prosthetics such as this may seem simple and rudimentary compared to what we have today, but they were cutting edge for the time, and they did act as a groundwork and an inspiration for the constantly improving technology we have today. Thank you for watching.